heck of a roar. We did the same, go down in flames, nothing will stop the Army Air Force.
Hi, I'm Taylor Polder, and this is my grandpa, John Polder, and he is a World War II vet. What were the circumstances behind you joining the service?
Well, I was about to be drafted, so rather than get drafted, I thought I'd enlist in the Air Corps.
How old were you?
18,
What year was it?
1943.
So you enlisted because you wanted to get a certain...
I didn't want to be in the infantry, lying in a trench someplace. I thought the Air Corps would be more glamorous, and so I joined the Air Corps.
Tell me about your training. Where was it and what was it like?
I became an aerial navigator, and I went to an aerial navigator school in San Marcos, Texas.
What was it like the first night you were away from home?
Very interesting. It was down in Columbus area. I'm from Cleveland. It was down in the Columbus area, and we were bedded down in some big gym. It might have been a school gym or a college gym, I forget, but it was a big gymnasium with double-decker bunks set up all over, kind of crowded. And there must have been hundreds of guys in this one gym. When the lights went out, you heard a lot of crying. It was like a bunch of little kids that were homesick already. They were gone one day from home, and they were homesick and crying. I felt blue and tired, a little scared, apprehensive. I didn't cry. I swear I didn't cry. But there was a lot of crying going on. So I'll never forget that first night because of the crying. Although I accepted my lot, I got used to being away from home pretty quick.
Tell me about the plane you flew on.
It's called a B-24 Liberator bomber. It's 4-engined, big bomber, and it flew higher than the B-17 and carried more bombs. And I just accidentally got assigned to B-24s. It could just as well have happened that I got assigned to B-17s, but as luck would have it, I was assigned to B-24s.
Where were you on the plane and what did you do?
Well, I was a navigator, and I was the guy who kept track of where the plane was at all times and told the pilot what direction exactly, what compass heading exactly to head in to get to where we were going. And we would fly from point A to point B to point C, and it was my job to keep track of where we were, if we were on course, and when to turn, and the compass heading. The pilot, what the pilot wanted from me was a compass heading.
What was it like flying inside the plane at those high altitudes?
Well, in those days, those planes were not heated in any way. Whatever the temperature was outside, that was the temperature inside. And as I recall, every 1,000 feet you go up, the Fahrenheit temperature drops 2 or 3 degrees. So we get up close to 30,000 feet, so that's a lot of a temperature drop. It would be very cold. However, we were adequately dressed. We had these sheepskin pants and jackets, and we were very comfortable, warm. Others on the plane, like the pilot and co-pilot, I believe they had electrically heated suits, but we were just, whatever the temperature was outside, that's what it was inside. It wasn't pressurized. After 10,000 feet, you'd have to be on oxygen. Otherwise, you'd lose consciousness eventually.
Where were you stationed and what were your missions like?
I got sent to India, and when we went on the way overseas, flying overseas, the war, Germany capitulated. VE Day, Victory in Europe Day, came as we were flying overseas, but we were still fighting the Japanese. So I ended up in India, and we were stationed in a little rinky-dink town on the Brahmaputra River called Tezpur. Flying over the Himalaya Mountains in the monsoon season is the worst flying you can imagine. We had 100-mile-an-hour winds that sometimes you'd be going into the wind, sometimes you'd go back, with the wind. What?
Were you glad you weren't flying any bombing missions?
Well, I never went on a bombing mission. Flying was inherently dangerous. Every time you take off in an airplane, lots of luck on a safe takeoff, flight, and landing. So, you know, life was from moment to moment. Flying over the Himalayan mountains in the monsoon season is the worst flying you can imagine. We had 100-mile-an-hour winds. That sometimes you'd be going into the wind, sometimes you'd go back, you know, with the wind. We were always glad to get back to the home field. I remember many times coming out of the plane and kissing the ground. It was so glad to be back on the ground, because we'd be flying in this rough weather I told you about, the monsoon season over the Himalayan mountains with 100-mile-an-hour winds, and an engine would quit. Now we could maintain altitude at 28,000 feet if your plane mushed along. You know, normally you would fly level. So if you get more lift, you'd cock the whole airplane in this attitude to fly along to maintain altitude. The flaps alone were not enough. Normally flaps would give you more lift. Well, we'd have to take the whole airplane and fly it at an angle like this to maintain the altitude to get over the mountains. So we brushed some mountains out there. We had to go in between peaks. Well, we were lucky. Our planes could go high enough to go over the mountains most of the time. There was an Air Transport Command, ATC. I felt sorry for those guys because they were flying planes that would not go over the mountains. They'd always have to fly between the mountains. And when it got socked in and the monsoon was real bad, on a given day you'd lose 10, 15, 20 planes of the ATC, of the Air Transport Command.
How do you feel about being involved with the war, and how do you feel about the war in general?
Well, we were all gung-ho. Most of the guys were very patriotic. We were willing to die for our country. I was. I looked in the mirror, like most of us did, and said, "You're a dead duck, so, you know, enjoy life, go do your job, it's your country calls, and blah, blah." And patriotism was very real, very real.
Yeah.
In the B-24, we had 4 major turrets. One in the nose, one in the tail, one on top of the plane, and a belly ball turret underneath the plane, which was very precarious to be in. So anyway, each of those turrets was fitted with 2 50 caliber machine guns. And these are the bullets they shot. I think they're pretty big bullets. This is what we fired at the enemy planes attacking the bombers, 50 caliber. And we shot a lot of these. Every crew member had to go through gunnery school to learn how to fire these guns in case one of the gunners got injured and somebody had to take his place. So after all the navigator training, this is what you got to signify and prove that you graduated from navigator school, the navigator wings. These are silver, and we wore them very proudly. They were equivalent to a pilot's wings or a bombardier's wings. So these are my actual navigator's wings, which I wore very proudly. I still have. One of the little attaching nails came off, but I still treasure it.